Welcome to Wild Worcestershire, the podcast from Worcestershire Wildlife Trust. Each episode will explore the wild corners of our county. From ancient woodlands to whispering wetlands, along the way we'll meet the people working to protect these places and uncover the hidden lives of the wildlife that calls them home. This is a space for stories, for connection and for celebrating nature right on our doorstep. So come with us and discover the wild side of Worcestershire. Hello and welcome to this podcast. I'm your host, Lee Robinson, and today you find me at Lower Smite Farm and I'm visiting the gardens. We've got a beautiful courtyard garden with some picnic tables, and we've also got a proper cottage wall garden. Both have been created to provide lots of homes and habitats for wildlife, and it truly is a beautiful place. Now, the grounds are open for people to visit, and you can come and you can have a wander around. And if you're thinking about developing a cottage garden or a garden that's friendly to wildlife, then it's well worth coming along to take a visit and to have a look at what can be done. So we're going to start off, I'm meeting today with Wendy and Rosemary, and we're going to start off in the courtyard garden. So come with me.
Hi, I'm Wendy Carter and I'm the Communications Lead here at Worcestershire Wildlife Trust.
And I'm Rosemary Winnall. I'm a county naturalist and I love searching for wildlife in gardens.
So I'm in very good company then. So we're going to go for a little guided tour and a little wander around the courtyard garden first, and we're going to have a little look to see what we can see. Now, you've been here ahead of me, so you've got an idea of what's here to be found. So would you like to point something out to me?
Indeed, yes. We've been having a bit of a scout round while we were waiting for you to arrive, Lee, and we have found some lovely wildlife to show you.
Marvellous. Let's go and have a look.
Okay, so if you look really closely in these really tight flower buds of the mullein or the mullein plant, how people pronounce it differently, you'll see that there are sheltering some very tiny little bugs. And they're all of different ages. They're shieldbugs,
right,
and they're the babies, if you like, of hairy shieldbugs. They used to be known as slow shieldbugs because they were found on slow bushes. But they're hairy. They're the only UK shieldbug that's hairy. So they're really easy to identify. They're even easier to identify as an adult, but we haven't seen any of those at the moment. The adults have got a lovely checkerboard, black and white edge to the backs of their wing cases, the backs of their abdomens. But here you'll see a variety of their nymphs, and they're all slightly different sizes and slightly different colours, but all various shades of brown with tiny, tiny hairs. You might not be able to see them with the naked eye, but we got a magnifying glass out earlier just to make sure we were getting the identification right. And most people are probably familiar with insects being an egg, and then a larva, and then a pupa, and then an adult. But with these, they go through different nymphal stages, so they shed their nymphal cases and break out and emerge as a slightly bigger nymph. Sometimes slightly different coloured as well. But that's why here we've got, I think, three different stages. I think they go through 5 what's known as instars before they become the adult. It might be 4.
So how big do they get as adults?
I was about to say, and this is not much help for if you're listening to a podcast, about twice the size as the ones that we're seeing here. But probably a little bit smaller than a centimetre or so long.
Yeah.
But the adults, like I say, have got this lovely checkerboard pattern around the edges. With they're quite red, and they are more obviously hairy than these little nymphs.
Do you know what? I would have walked past this and I wouldn't have even noticed. So it's always good to have people who know what they're looking at and looking for, because I would have completely missed them.
Well, we were looking for something completely different.
Yeah, always the way.
And didn't find that, but did find these.
Wow. So for the listeners, they are at the moment they're slightly different sizes, but they're the shield bug. I can see where they get that from because they've got a kind of shield shape. At the moment, these ones are all sort of a light brown colour, and I can just about see the hairs. So yeah, I can see why they're called hairy.
I'm trying to turn it round, trying to turn the plant round so you can see more, but actually everywhere I look there's a shield bug nymph that I'm trying not to put my hands on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's one staring straight at me just in there.
Yeah. The more you look, the more you see. The more you get your eye in to what you're looking for, the more you realise actually some of the dying and dead petals and leaves aren't petals and leaves. They're shield bug nymphs.
Shield bugs. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's amazing. Okay, well, we're going to have a little one to see what else we can find.
Yeah, so we're looking at one of the parasitic wasps, and there are thousands of these in the UK, and they're really difficult to identify as a general rule. So this one's black with a red abdomen, and it's probably, I don't know, just under a centimetre. But if you look really closely, there's what appears to be a sting at the rear end, making it a lot longer. That's not actually a sting, it's something called an ovipositor. And within that's a sheath that protects the actual ovipositor itself. And that's a tool, if you like, for digging into things and laying her eggs into other things. Usually a caterpillar of a moth or a butterfly or some other creature. And then the egg hatches and develops within that creature, sometimes eating it alive from the inside out, sometimes developing and then breaking out of it. So it's quite gruesome, but it's all part and parcel of this rich tapestry of life that is around us every day. And quite often, if we don't stop to look at it, we completely miss it. And even if we stop to look at it, we've got no idea about what's actually going on until you really kind of delve into things.
Right, that's fascinating.
Can I say something else? Because yesterday I was watching one of these parasitic wasps actually ovipositing inside my bee hotel. So they don't always just lay their eggs in living creatures. Sometimes they lay their eggs inside the nests so that when the little grub hatches from the adult that's made the nest, the parasitic wasp grub will then parasitise that and eat it up. So that was quite exciting. I was pleased to see that.
Right. That's amazing. So there we go. I've learnt something new.
There's all sorts of parasitism that goes on in the natural world. So last week I was watching wasps catching stiletto flies, solitary wasps, to take back to their burrows, their nests that they dug. Who'd think that wasps would dig a nest? And similar to what Rosemary's just said, they lay their eggs on, like the stiletto flies. When the egg hatches, it eats them normally eats them, not from the outside in. But a nest might have 10, 12, 15, 20, whatever their particular prey is. In this case, it was stiletto flies, but it could be shield bugs, it could be flies, it could be all sorts of things. So there's all this stuff that goes on, it's all hidden and lovely.
Wow, no, that's really that's really cool. That's just, I mean, I looked at it and I wondered what it was because it did look quite scary with that. It's the long sort of tail on it, and it's also the colours as well, isn't it? Because you've got that sort of slightly reddish back end, which is a little bit of a warning, I suppose, as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and quite often people get scared about things like this when they see them because they assume that something with a big long thing at the end of the abdomen has got to be a sting and they've got to be dangerous to us. If you put your face too close to that for a better look, it'll fly away. It's scared of us. I
don't know why most wildlife's scared of me anyway. I think, to be fair, I mean, with a face like mine, I've got a face for radio. So we've just moved around the courtyard slightly and we've come to a beautiful patch of hollyhocks, and they're in it's almost like I think it's difficult to describe really, it's like a pinky colour, and we've got some lovely pink valerian, which is quite common. I've got a lot of that in my garden, and Wendy's going to tell us a little bit about why it's so important to have these types of plants in your garden.
Sorry, I've just spotted something else. Right, back to the point. So yeah, we've got this amazing patch of hollyhocks with loads and loads of flowers, and there's bumblebees buzzing in and out of them. We've recently, although not right at the moment, had a hummingbird hawkmoth on the valerian patch. We've got viper's bugloss. We've got some of the umbles which have got flat tops. There's all sorts of different flowers here, and it's really important, if you can in your garden, if you've got space, to include lots of different kinds of flowers, lots of different shapes, as long as they've all got lots of pollen and lots of nectar in them for the pollinators. As you need as many different shapes and sizes as you can, because different pollinators have different ways of accessing the nectar and accessing the pollen. So the bumblebees are going into the very open flowers of the hollyhocks. The hummingbird hawkmoth really likes the deep tubular flowers of the valerian. The parasitic wasp that we were looking at earlier really needs the flat top of the umbles. And we'd also advise that if you can, you plant in drifts, so that if you're a bee and you need a particular kind of flower, you only have to go a little further to get the next patch of flowers, and a little further to get it. You don't have to keep going from one patch several metres away to the next patch, several metres away to the next patch. But if we'll head into the garden in a minute, we'll see that the lavender patch is also equally full of bumblebees and lots of other different flowers to provide that variety, so that different pollinators, different insects can access the food that they need, and helps pollinate our plants in the process.
Right. So yeah, I mean, like my little garden at home is my front garden is absolutely chocker full of valerian. We have got some hollyhocks. We've got some foxgloves as well. Lots of poppies. And we have been quietly planting it up. The ladies have just spotted something, I think. What have we got there?
Well, they're tiny little holes, so something has been living inside the stem of this hollyhock, and it's left a scar. But have you got your hand lens?
I have.
Oh, let's have a look with a hand lens, because they're little dark marks all the way down one or two stems. Actually, no, I don't think I'm correct at all. I think it's probably some sort of fungus growing on it, is it? Have a look, Wendy, and see what you can see.
Yeah, so I was thinking... Oh, they are interesting. If anybody out there listening to the podcast knows what these are, they're small, round, browny, black globules. I wondered when I saw them whether they were sawfly. They were going to be sawfly eggs. So any keen gardeners out there who've ever had rose sawfly will have seen a very similar scar on the stems of their roses, but within those scars are a series of eggs of the rose sawfly, and then they hatch and then they eat your rose leaves. This is a good thing to any rose lover out there. It's a good thing for the rose sawfly, but obviously anybody who really loves their roses does quite often see these little beautiful black and orange relations to bees as nuisances. However, these appear to be completely different, and we're both stumped. So if there's any listener out there who knows what these are, please do get in touch and let us know.
Interesting.
Well, again, something I completely missed.
No,
just didn't see it. So you think it might be a fungus?
Some sort of a fungal infection.
Right.
So I'm going to come back later and take some photographs and try and find out what it is.
Try and find out what it is, right. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like, fungus in itself is still life, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still something living off something else, which is the way of the world with nature, really, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not really affecting the hollyhocks. They're still flowering beautifully and providing nectar. We can see the bees going in and out. And I think the big bumblebees, they seem to be attracted to blues and reds, don't they? And so they love this large group of pink and reddish hollyhocks.
There's some white ones at the back as well, isn't there?
They're much taller, aren't they?
They're way much taller, yes. I mean, some of them are. The one in front of me is about 7 or 8 foot tall, so that's huge. But I haven't seen any bees go into that one. So,
no, it's interesting. There are a couple of surveys out there, say the POM survey and the FIT survey, which will mean nothing to you as I just say them. But for listeners, head out there and go and look them up. Go and do a quick internet search for POMs and FIT surveys, where you can basically sit at a flower for 10-15 minutes and count what comes to it, whether it's a hoverfly or a bumblebee, how long they stay, and that's all feeding into national data about how important certain flowers are and can be for our insects.
Right, I'll have to do that when I get home.
I think too, after this very hot weather we've been having recently, that the plants are struggling to produce enough nectar because they haven't got the water at their roots. So, the insects can be struggling. And so I think there's always an option of actually planting some plants to grow in shady conditions where they don't need so much water, and they might be able to provide more nectar in very hot weather.
Okay. Marvellous. We're going to have a little wander to see what we can find. Well, we've just been wandering around and we've just sort of walking up a ramp, and there's a barn in front of us, and there is a few sparrows just gone past, but we've actually just seen a swallow dive out from one of the archways, and we decided to just stop and wait for a few moments, and apparently the swallows are nesting just up inside the doorway, but we're keeping our distance, and Rosemary's going to tell us a little bit more about swallows.
I love swallows, and it's a delight to see them here all the way back from Africa, choosing this site to nest and to bring up their young. And I can tell, although we're not inside the opening, I can tell where the nest is from all the droppings I can see on the ground. So we know that's nest been used for some weeks. And it's wonderful to see these swallows and other aerial flyers like the swifts and the sand martins and the house martins. And they're all up in the air searching for food on the wing. And, insects are not as common as they used to be. So any food they can find is so precious to feed their young and to ensure that those young will grow and fledge in order to continue that population. So by putting a lot of wonderful flowers in the garden, by growing a selection that encourages all the insects in, which in turn will help all the birds that feed on the insects. And I'm watching the house sparrows as well. Although as adults they will be looking for grain and seeds, they need insects to feed their young, for the young to mature in the nest. We've got the swallows and the house sparrows here actually benefiting from the insects that we can attract into the garden by planting a whole range of lovely flowers.
It's quite interesting. I think swallows is one of my favourite birds, and I get excited at the beginning of May and I start watching closely, waiting for them to come back, because for me it's not summer until I've seen a swallow. And I've seen a few, and there's a place that I visit regularly, and there's two nests. It's in quite a public area, and it's a thoroughfare, and people are walking through all the time, and the swallows don't care. They're quite happy. They've got a good food source around them, because there is a small lake next door, and there's an orchard area, and I watch them, and they're doing their acrobatics as they're zipping between all the orchard trees and zipping over the water of the lake as well after all the insects. So it is really fascinating, and swallows are definitely one of my favourites. So we've just left the courtyard garden behind, and we've now just walked into the wildlife garden. It's very much like a cottage garden. We've got climbers, we've got a small pond, we've got some long grasses that have been left for habitats, we've got lots and lots of cottagey plants, and there's a lovely brick wall running up the side of the garden that's providing a bit of warmth and a bit of thermal mass. So this garden actually feels slightly warmer than the courtyard, and we're going to have a little look now and see what we can find in and amongst all the beautiful vegetation that we've got here. So we're just having a look round some of the plants. We've got a few bumblebees buzzing around us, but we've just spotted a spider eating something on a flower. So Rosemary's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, this is a wonderful little crab spider, and we're looking at it now, and there's a series of different crab spiders, but this is the one you're likely to see in your garden. And they're called crab spiders because when they sit still, their legs are out like a crab, each side of their head facing forward, and this one is actually eating a meal. I'm looking at the fly. It's quite a big fly, and actually it's longer than the spider, but the spider is pure white, and the flower it's sitting on is pure white, and so this particular spider doesn't make a web, but it relies on camouflage and the ability to jump on and catch its prey on the flower. And this one has caught quite a large fly, and we can see it's eating it now. So we won't disturb it too much, but that's going to make a very good meal. It's a female spider, and it'll need lots of food in order to mature and to lay her eggs.
Right, it's really fascinating to watch. Well, she's just had enough now. She's had a bit of a feed and she's just gone underneath the flower, but she is exactly the same colour. So it's incredible camouflage. And again, if I'd have been walking through, I would have completely missed that. But yeah, I don't know what fly it is, but she's had a good munch, and now she's just gone underneath the flower, probably waiting for something else to come along as well, and we'll leave her to it.
Lovely.
So we're just making our way now around the pond, which sits almost in front of the main building, and Rosemary's just spotted something in amongst I suppose we could describe them as reeds, and there's plants and all sorts, and there's a oxeye daisy, and Rosemary's just spotted something. So what have you seen, Rosemary?
Yes, this is a lovely pond because there's so much emergent vegetation as well as some open water. So this is just the sort of pond that dragonflies and damselflies like to lay their eggs in. And of course, both of those groups of insects will spend some years in the water as nymphs before they climb up emergent vegetation, split their skins and emerge as the adult dragonfly or damselfly. And I've just spotted something over there. It's actually on marsh marigold leaf. It looks as if it's alive, but I know it's the skin of a dragonfly, possibly southern hawker. It's that sort of size. But of course the dragonfly experts can tell exactly which type of dragonfly it is from the skin. And of course by finding the skin in situ, it means that they've also got a breeding record. It's not just a record of a dragonfly flying around. It shows that species has actually bred in that pond.
Right, okay. That's quite exciting. Now Wendy's spotted something. She's currently on her hands and knees trying to crawl into the edge of the pond without falling in.
I'm not falling in.
And what have you spotted, Wendy?
Oh, well, it's only very small, but it's a damselfly exuviae. So like what Rosemary was just describing with the dragonfly, here's the and it's blown off my hands.
It's blown off. They're super lightweight, aren't they?
They are really, really lightweight.
They've disappeared that way.
However, in my pocket, I have one we found earlier. And the well-known phrase. So this one I will keep a better handle on. So this we think might be a southern hawker exuviae, and it's dark brown, and what's that? Couple of inches or so long, 6 legs as you'd expect from an insect. You can even see where the eyes were, and it's basically very, very short wings, the body of a dragonfly, but
right.
Not.
No. So it's just what's left of it after it's emerged.
So you can just about see. I mean, they are papery thin. They are, hence the one blew out of my hands. You can see here in the thorax where the adult emerged, broke free of its nymphal casing and emerged out of the back. And it takes, 2-3 hours or so for them to break out and for their body to pump up to full size, for their wings to pump up so that they can actually fly. They're really, really vulnerable when they're at this stage. They can't fly. They're sitting out on a piece of vegetation for all the world to see. And then they take off, and it takes another couple of days or so for them to become the colours that we see.
Right.
So we have a citizen science project called Wildlife Sightings, and one of the species in there that we ask people to look out for is a broad-bodied chaser dragonfly. And when they emerge, all of them are yellow. But as the males develop, they turn blue, and the females stay a beautiful golden yellowy brown. And like Rosemary was saying earlier, the records that we're getting through wildlife sightings are putting breeding spots on the map. So especially in people's garden ponds, things like large red damselflies, broad-bodied chasers, even southern hawkers will come and breed in your garden pond. And a garden pond is one of the best things you can put into your garden for wildlife.
Right. Well, for the listeners, the exuviae is... It's, I suppose, about 2 inches long. It's got, you can see the articulations in the body, in the tail end. But I think what's most striking for me is the eyes. You can see that they are clear, and you can see where the eyes were, and it just looks like a dragonfly larvae. Was it larvae or dragonfly larvae in like a statue form is the best way to describe it. But it looks incredibly brittle. So that really is quite a find.
One of the amazing things about both damselflies and dragonflies that are both the nymph and the adult are voracious predators. But the nymphs have internal mouthparts, which you kind of can't see here. The nymphs have internal mouthparts that shoot out to grab their prey. Right. So if Ridley Scott ever had inspiration for his Alien, it was damselflies and dragonflies.
Looking at it from here with it facing me, it does have that alien-esque look about it, doesn't it? So, but it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's incredible. And you sort of look at nature's engineering, if you like.
Yeah.
And it's just in that much detail. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. So when you're by the side of a pond, you need to keep your eyes peeled and look for exuviae on the sides of the stems of the plants. So I'll certainly be doing that.
Yep.
So we're just going to move away now from the side of the pond, having looked at the exoskeleton of various insects, and we're moving towards the lavender, which looks absolutely beautiful, and it's one of my favourite sort of cottage garden plants. At the moment there is a lot of buzzing going on. We've got a lot of bumblebees that are busily beavering away, collecting all the pollen, and I think Wendy has spotted something. What have you got there, Wendy?
3 or 4 here.
Yeah, there's another one there as well. These are rosemary beetles, and as they're named after Rosemary, I'll let her tell you all about them.
Very good name. I'm very pleased to see these, and there are quite a lot on this beautiful flowering lavender. And actually, I'm looking at one now through close focus binoculars, and they are splendid. I know they're not native. They've moved into Britain in the 1990s, and they've spread now all the way up. They're even in Scotland now, but they are such beautiful beetles. I've got them in my garden, and I love to see them. So I'm looking at the coloration. They've got beautiful sheens of blues and greens and bronzes. Here's one here. And I'm just going to have a look, because they've got little lines of colour, and the colour changes according to the light, and as you move them around. This one's sitting very quietly on my hand while I look at it, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I love to see them in my garden. Okay, if you get too many, they might do a little bit of damage, but it's such a joy to see the beauty when you look at them closely. I love them.
Yeah, I mean, it's I suppose the best way to describe it, probably about 5-6 millimetres long. But the colours, you've got the reds, you've got greens, there's a bit of yellow in there, and they almost look, I think it reminds me a little bit of when you see exhaust on motorbikes, where they've got a chrome exhaust and it's heated up and you get those different colours. And the shell just looks like that. It's beautiful, absolutely incredible.
Yes, and you can find them on a variety of plants. Obviously, rosemary is one of them. Lavender, we've just been looking at them. But also other plants in the same family. You can find them on sage and other things. And I don't know, but they're doing so well. And it's one of the insects that have moved into our country in recent years that really has been very successful as far as the beetle is concerned. Whether the gardeners like them in such quantity, I'm not so sure.
So whereabouts do they originate from? Do we know?
It says southern Europe, so so they must have come in with plants imported in, I guess. So they're obviously used to very warm weather.
Yeah.
And so I can see if we get these very hot summers, they'll proliferate, and they'll be much more common than we find them now, I imagine.
Right, okay, lovely. Have we got something else? Oh, it's excitement.
So, while you've been oohing and ahhing over the beauty of the rosemary beetles, and they certainly are, there are a couple of spiders hidden in here as well. I'm not going to turn them upside down because they're sitting in their webs, but if you tip your head just underneath them a little bit, you'll notice why they've got the name that they've got. So they've got yellow sides to their abdomen, but there's a cricket bat shape that's kind of brown going down their abdomen from the back of their heads, and they're called a cricket bat spider.
Right. Okay.
Appropriate for the summer.
Appropriate, yeah.
Yes,
Oh yes, I
absolutely.
can see them. Yeah.
Beautifully positioned in the web, just blowing slowly in the breeze between the lavender flowers. Looks very comfortable there, and I can't see any prey in the web yet.
that one's got some food. This one hasn't.
Ah, lovely.
So there's one sort of sitting on top of the lavender, and there's one that's just down a little bit amongst the stems. But they're spectacular.
Oh,
Yeah, I
well
can
spotted.
definitely see why they're called a cricket bat spider. So as you can probably hear in the background at the moment, we've got a school group in the courtyard area. Now we're just walking away from the lavender, which smells absolutely incredible, and we're now walking down the gravel path and we're going towards a pergola, towards some arches. And interestingly, there is some honeysuckle, and this honeysuckle is really thick and bushy, and the smell is absolutely unbelievable. I wish that you could smell what I'm smelling, because I've got the lavender just drifting on the breeze and I've got the honeysuckle as well. But this garden is a mix of all sorts of plants and grasses and things like that, and you have cottage garden plants, you've got traditional plants, we've got climbers, and we've even got grapes growing here in the garden. And there is a beautiful pink clematis growing over the top. We've got the grapes just looking like they're starting to fruit. We've got the honeysuckle, and then when you walk in underneath the archway, you've got this bit of shade, and you've got slightly different environment to what you've got perhaps in the open area of the garden. Now I'm going to take a little right turn here. On my left is the vegetable garden, and all of the garden is beautifully tended by our volunteers that come and put many hours into keeping the garden in such great condition. And if you're interested, then you can find out more about volunteering with the Trust by visiting our website, and that will be in the description below. Now I'm going to go and rejoin Wendy and Rosemary as they have a little hunt around some of the beautiful beds that we've got here, and see if there are any more insects to surprise us. So we've just made our way down towards the bottom of the garden, and we've got an area that's lots of quite tallish trees, and Wendy has just spotted something on a really tall plant, which is probably about 7 foot tall. What plant is this, Wendy?
So this is a figwort, and quite often we joke, it's not a very funny joke, but we joke that if you find a plant and then you find a weevil, the chances are that the weevil is named after the plant. And sure enough, we found a weevil on here, and it's called a figwort weevil. It's not very funny, I did promise. So there are 6 species of figwort weevil in the UK, but we commonly find 4 in Worcestershire, and this is one of them. I'm afraid I can't tell you which one it is, and I think they've all only got scientific names anyway, and I am hopeless at remembering those. But if you see it, take a closer look. It's only about 4 mil or so. It's dark grey,
tiny,
with a whitey silvery coloured head, and I know that it's also got a couple of lumps on the back, so you can see it. They're really difficult to find. There were several on here earlier when we came and had a look, and there's actually only this one that we can find now. But in about probably a month, 6 weeks time or so, if we come back, we'll find something that looks very, very, very different. So this is an adult. It looks how you would expect an insect to look. Weevils have a snout at the front called a rostrum. It reminds me a little bit like Gonzo off the Muppet Show. And you can see it now. He's turned around. So in profile, you can see that snout. At the end of the snout are his mouth parts, or her mouth parts. And you can see the antennae have just actually closed down into the rostrum as the winds got up. In about 6 weeks, 8 weeks or so, if you come back, you might catch sight of the larvae, and the larvae are possibly the ugliest thing in the animal kingdom. They're like gloopy looking slugs. They're really quite gross to look at. Shouldn't say that because everything's beautiful to its parents and everything else, isn't it? But they are really quite ugly looking larvae. And then of course they will pupate. They'll eat their fill and they'll pupate, and next spring they'll start to emerge as these rather beautiful adults.
Right. So I'm just going to quickly pick up on the fact that you've got the binoculars. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
I'm not allowed to say what sort they are, am I?
Well, you can do if you like. Yes, fine.
Okay. Yes, I'm using these close focus binoculars, and it enables me to actually look very closely at the insect without having to bend down closer to it and possibly disturb it, which I seem to do quite a lot. But these are wonderful. They're Pentax binoculars that are specially designed for entomologists. You can always also watch birds with them, but they are particularly good because they focus so closely, and I can see that little weevil is tiny, but I can see all the details through my binoculars, and I can recommend them. They've certainly helped me. They're called Papilio, and that's a good word, isn't it? A butterfly name to remember them by. Pentax Papilio.
And Wendy's got you've got a little spy. Is it like a little spyglass with you?
I have, yeah. It's a little hand lens. You can get all sorts of different ones. I think this is a 20 times and a 10 times in the same one. Although the 20 times is a teeny, teeny, tiny little thing to look through, so I tend not to. And that just basically means it magnifies things 10 times. And they're little, and you can pop them in your pocket, as opposed to a big, the kind of Sherlock Holmes kind of magnifying glass, where they're quite difficult to stow away. But I've also just found another species of figwort weevil while you two have been talking.
Marvellous.
So if we head down here...
Oh, yeah.
If you can see, this one is a much darker colour, and the head patterning is different, and there's a cream mark just between the wing cases on the back, rather different to the rather silvery grey looking one with the silvery kind of thorax at the front. But they are very difficult to spot.
Yeah, I was going to say, they are, for the listeners, they're literally only a couple of millimetres across in size, and they blend in so well you wouldn't see them unless you were looking for them, which is one of the reasons why I mentioned using spyglasses and things like that, because it's a great tool to have. Because if you're looking for wildlife, it doesn't always mean that the wildlife is really visible with the naked eye. So having the tools for the job is really, really useful, and it opens up a whole new world. And I'm getting quite excited again. We've just moved along the bed just a little bit now, and we've come across some lamb's ear, which is a lovely sort of silvery plant and it definitely looks like a lamb's ear. It's furry, and Rosemary has just spotted something. What have you found, Rosemary?
Yes, it's lovely to see this woolcarder bee, and I'm looking at it very closely there. It's on the stachys, or the lamb's ear, we call it, flower. She is a beautiful specimen, quite a large bee, and she will be collecting, amazingly, the hairs from the stems of this plant in order to take them back to her nest, and will plug her egg cell with the hairs of this plant. We are familiar with things like red mason bees that will use mud to close up their egg cell, but she uses the hairs from this plant.
So is she a solitary bee?
Yes, she's a solitary bee. When I've seen them, they are nesting in small holes in masonry, in walls, or in a house that's got appropriate holes in the wall. That's where I've seen them, but they are beautiful and very big bees. And the females have got these lovely little white, yellow spots down the edge of their abdomen.
What we're not seeing here is a male, which is quite unusual because we've got a female here, and quite often you'll find a male and he'll be patrolling the patch of stachys, defending it from absolutely everything. It doesn't have to be another male bee, it could be a butterfly or anything. And he flies at them, punches them out of the way. He's even got 3 little spikes at the very, very tip of the abdomen, and if he grabs you, if you're something that he doesn't want in his patch, he can kind of crush those into you until he lets go, and then off you fly and you don't come back.
It's a bit of a bully then. Oh, Rosemary spotted something, have you? Oh no, there.
Just watching.
There she is.
Is that
that is actually, is that the male? That is the male.
It's smaller.
Yeah.
Can you see? It's keeping very still.
Yeah, he's just sitting on this little flower here. I think he's just resting. There are no females around. He doesn't need to defend his patch from anybody. But if you can just see from the side and the profile, you might be able to see one of the spikes that I was talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think I can. He's so still, I wonder if he's been eaten by a crab spider.
Possibly. Yeah, normally they don't, he's just sitting on a flower, and normally they don't allow you to look at them quite so closely. Oh, there we go, Rosemary's woken him up.
Oh. He hasn't been eaten by a crab spider.
No. But he
He's
might
alive
have
and
been
well.
parasitised.
Yes.
So there are flies around called bee grabbers, who I don't know whether any of them particularly specialise in this species. He's now on Rosemary's finger.
See the little points
Yeah.
in the back of the abdomen.
Yeah, but bee grabbers will sit on a leaf watching and waiting, and the females will fly out to a bee, grasp hold of them, put essentially their ovipositor into the body and lay their egg there. So it's possible that actually he's not a wool carder, or
He's unusually
he's old.
quiet. Yes, and I think he might be coming to the end of his life, one way or another. But it's so lovely to see him close to. He's got a lot of little white, shaggy hairs on his face, and beautiful abdomen with these yellow spots along the edge, but not as large as the female.
And white hairs around the thorax,
Yes.
and on the legs as well.
He's very docile, isn't he?
He's beautiful, isn't he? And none of us have got a camera to capture it
No.
for the
Oh,
listeners.
there we go.
Oh, and off he goes.
Off he goes.
He was just having a rest.
I don't blame him.
Hang on,
Oh.
Is that a male? Wait a minute. Oh, look at that. What's she got on her? She's got
She
some
looks like she's
pollen.
covered in pollen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What sort of pollen's that?
Yes,
Because sometimes you can tell where the bees have been nectaring, because some pollen is different colours. If she has some, is it pink pollen from scabious, for example? That's the one that you look out for, I think.
I'm not
Better
sure.
check that one.
Marvellous. Okay, it's going to have a little wander. We're just having a little look around, and there are some fruit trees in the garden, and at the moment there is a comma butterfly just sitting ever so still, just moving the wings ever so slightly, and they're quite an interesting butterfly to look at, because they're a mix of sort of there's a little bit of brown in them, a dark brown and a lighter brown, and then these beautiful orange wings, and they're and it's off, but the wings are almost jagged edged, and you can tell a comma straight away, but they're one of my favourite butterflies. So now I've just followed the ladies in through the archway, and we're now into the vegetable garden, and as I've come through, we've got some basically no dig gardening. We've got a pile of what is basically straw, and a lot of potato plants that are growing, and they're all in raised beds, and the vegetables are absolutely blossoming at the moment. We've got some, looks like cucumbers, and as I say, all of this is grown together. So plants complement each other. You can plant certain plants with other plants and they complement and they attract the right types of insects and keep away the ones that you don't. And Worcestershire Wildlife Trust have a lovely little vegetable garden which is designed to sort of demonstrate how to plant up a garden. We've got some tomatoes, got some lovely little tomato plants that are growing. There's one there, it's almost shaped like an acorn. I'm not sure what variety it is, but it's lovely. We've got some lettuces, we've got some radish growing, and all around the outside edge of the garden we've got honeysuckle, and we've got a lot of plants and flowers, and we've got butterflies flying around, we've got bees flying around. So a garden doesn't just have to be about flowers, it could be about vegetables as well. So we're just walking down the path, we're walking towards the front gate that goes out onto the road, and we've just spotted something of interest. So Wendy, would you like to tell us what you've spotted?
Yeah, so firstly I spotted the 7-spot ladybird, which is pretty familiar to all of us, so a red ladybird with 7 black spots on it. What's a collective noun for ladybirds, Lee?
No idea.
A loveliness.
A loveliness of ladybirds.
A loveliness of ladybirds, because we all love ladybirds, don't we? We all recognise ladybirds. So there are, I think, 40-50 species of ladybirds in the UK. They don't all look like this. The ones that are conspicuous, i.e. they're quite big and we spot them and we recognise them as ladybirds, whether they're yellow or red or black with other different spots. They're known as conspicuous ladybirds. There's about 20 odd so species of those, and they are conveniently generally called by what they look like: 7-spot ladybirds, 14-spot, 16-spot, and so on. There are also about 20 odd species of inconspicuous ladybirds, which are relatives but don't look anything like what we would normally assume to be a ladybird. So that's our 7-spot ladybird. And it's sitting on a flower head of lamb's ear or stachys. But poking through the stachys is an oxeye daisy, actually a dead oxeye daisy flower head. And on that we see an army of black aphids and some ants that are tending to them. Now the ants are tending to them because the aphids secrete a honeydew, a kind of sweet secretion, and the ants are farming that. But the ladybird is crucial to this as well, because the ladybird's hanging around there, probably waiting for a break in the ant behaviour, so it can stealthily creep up the oxeye daisy stem and munch its way through some of those aphids.
So it's amazing. So there's a story there on one tiny stem of a flower in a border, and there are 3 lives all intersecting. And they're all doing something slightly different. The ants at the moment are running around, scurrying around, and it's incredible. So they're like the farmers.
Yep.
And then you've got the predator waiting to come in, yep, and munch the cattle.
Yep. Well, there's a lovely story that continues in that the aphids are taking their energy from the plant. The ants come up and take their energy from the honeydew. But in so doing, they are thought to protect the aphid colony from predators coming in, but also to protect the plant from things that will come and lay their eggs in the plant stem as well. So it's a complicated interrelationship, isn't it? And the ladybird's starting to move now. Now, is it going to come up and find a meal? Got to wait and see.
If you are someone who considers aphids to be pests, and I don't like to use the word pest because I think everything's got its place, you know, these are part of the food chain, they're part of an important part of the natural world, and you want more ladybirds, 7-spot ladybirds, both the adult and the larva, are both voracious predators of aphids, so you would like more of them in your garden. Pop in some scruffy areas, some log piles, some hanging twigs, some places where the adults can find refuge from the weather, from, you know, the seasons and what have you. These are really important places. It won't just be ladybirds that find refuge there, it'll be all sorts of other things in the garden. But there are so many connections within the natural world that we just don't see. So there are certain hoverfly larvae that will happily come and feed, rather the adults will feed on your flowers. They'll then lay their larvae in amongst an aphid colony, and the larvae will eat the aphids as well. This is a whole world unfolding here that quite often we just don't see it because we don't open our eyes to it.
No. I mean, I would walk through and look at the garden and think, oh, the garden's beautiful, but I would never get up and close and personal. And having I say we've already talked about having the tools for the job. But also sort of having a little bit of awareness of what might be living on those plants, and I've noticed straight away that the first thing you did is you have identified the plants, and you've gone there because you know that there are certain species that are going to be there, and it kind of leads on. So it's if you like, it's the beginning of a book, isn't it? You open the first page. The plant is the first page, and then you move through the chapters of the life cycle of the plant and the insects that live off it. So it's absolutely incredible. And from my perspective, it's every time I come out with you, I'm learning something new. And even if you're a beginner and you've not got the knowledge, I think it's really useful. You can buy guidebooks and you can buy nature books and things like that, can't you? You can get on the internet and you can have a look, and I think once you get the bug, excuse the pun, it just opens up a whole different world, and it is absolutely fascinating. So yeah, thank you.
Well, we all have to start somewhere. Rosemary has been a lifelong naturalist, and the information ahead just boggles me. But I only started really getting into identifying things probably about 10-15 years ago, and I was fortunate enough to have people like Rosemary, Harry, Gary, Brett, lots of other people around who could nurture what they saw in me. But you're absolutely rightly, there are online communities out there that you can get involved in, plenty of groups on Facebook that you can post a photograph in and say, what's this, and somebody will help. Or you can take a photograph and send it in to us via our wildlife sightings form, and people like Rosemary sit behind that form and help to verify, help to identify, help people to learn. And we hold events for people to come out and learn with us. So anybody who's in Worcestershire who wants to get involved, please do so.
Okay.
And I think too that a garden is a really good place to start if you want to start learning about nature. And if you are lucky enough to have a garden and you don't disturb it too much but keep the same plants year after year, you can learn about what comes, and then you can look the following year, are the same species there? Because sometimes the whole of the life cycle of those of a particular insect will revolve around quite a small clump of plants. So it's a really good place to start learning just on your doorstep in your own garden.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to both of you for bringing me out and educating me, which is about the best way to describe it. So as I said at the beginning, if you're really interested and you'd like to come and visit the garden, it's open to the public. You can come in and have a little wander around and have a good mooch and have a look, see if you can see things like the aphids and the ladybirds and all the various insects that we've had a look at today. The golden rule is look but don't touch, and just remember that they're there living their lives, but you can just quietly observe, and you'll certainly learn a lot about nature. So from me and from Wendy and from Rosemary, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lee, and thank you for listening, everyone.
Yes, thank you, and goodbye.
Since the recording of this podcast, the Trust's president, Harry Green, has sadly passed away. Harry had been involved with the Trust since it formed in the 1960s and was a friend and mentor to many, including both Rosemary and Wendy, as well as many, many more. This episode is dedicated to the memory of Harry.